This right here is the Galaxy Z Fold, and it folds in half like a book. And for some reason, it cost £2,000. That's crazy. So I didn't buy the new one, I bought the Z Fold 5, which is less than 1/3 of the price because I'm smart. Or am I? I'm gonna live with this thing for the next couple days, set it up like my main phone and try to use all of its craziest features to find out if foldables are fun and useful or just a way to waste more time. Like doom scrolling twice as efficiently. Let's find out. You see, for a while, I've been kind of bored of the same old thing. Just a slab of glass, and every year phones are a little bit faster, a little bit better cameras, and just some AI stuff. That's kind of boring. I've always been fascinated by foldable phones, but they cost like £9 million. How am I supposed to afford that? Until I realized I can just get a used one. This Fold is really thick and heavy compared to the Fold 7, which you can grope yourself with your sweaty, crummy fingers at the Samsung store. Which is why I'm gonna try not to complain about the size, because clearly they fixed it this year. And this is what my Fold looks like. Plain black background, white icons, stacked widgets, and a money emoji to remind me that the grind never stops. If you take a Samsung foldable and combine it with Samsung's Good Lock, you get something crazy special. For example, there's a thing called One Hand Operation Plus, and you can have custom gestures. So for example, if I swipe right from the corner, I get this little toolbar with brightness and volume and stuff. If I just swipe from top left, I get split screen and I can instantly pick another app. And there's also a thing called DIY Home, so I can basically just tap and select anything that I want, overlap it, make it any size, basically customize it in exactly the way that I want. And now for the Fold experience. I think there's actually some useful, practical things you can do on a foldable. That's not just watching YouTube or reading just because it's a bigger screen. You can take it to bed with you while it's still small, play with it until it gets nice and big, and then when you're finished, it goes back to being small. Listen back to that with your eyes closed. You can have two screens side by side, one of them being, let's say, a document with your notes, and the other one could be Chrome, where you're researching or something. Also, because this acts as a tablet, Chrome experience is also better because you can switch between tabs like a desktop instead of having to press here and then choose your tab. I also found an instance where if you're on Amazon, you can just read more text, so I found myself grabbing this just for that reason. And speaking of tablets, I think this is just a better iPad mini, which I have right here. This is much heavier, it's thicker, the bezels are bigger, and it has a worse screen, and it's 60 Hz. So I stopped using it and now I use the foldable, but if I didn't have the foldable, I would just use the iPad. So also, I found myself watching YouTube in the unfolded mode because you're basically getting the full screen experience without having to fold your phone sideways. It's the default mode. This is where it gets a little bit more fun. If you fold the phone just a little bit, you basically get a tripod. And then if you flip it, you can kind of film yourself with the back cameras. And then if you go to Pro mode, you can actually use a wireless mic, like one of these, and get pretty good footage. Also, I just realized, when you use the back cameras, you get optical image stabilization, so everything is a lot smoother, whereas if I was to use the front camera, it would look a lot more shaky, especially in low light. Let me show you an actually practical and useful example of how I use multitasking. So I had a Canvas page where I took a bunch of screenshots and I annotated them, and then I split screened it with ChatGPT, which is for research purposes. And on top of that, I had a floating window of Spotify, which is easier to press and then change the song rather than swiping down and changing it. And that's the one time I actually did that in the whole week. Never again did I think, let me do some deep, hard work and multitask on a bumpy 20-minute bus ride to work. Yeah, don't mind me, I'm just having some intrusive thoughts. The Fold looks like a big piece of toast, I can't help it. See, watching content on this phone makes a lot more sense than the Flip, because when I'm having breakfast, I can fold it in half, and the top screen is roughly the same size as my main screen. So I don't need to prop it up against anything. I have one massive problem with Z Folds, which is almost a deal breaker for me, but let me start with the smaller stuff. It feels premium, but also fragile. If you're setting it up like this, you're either scratching the cameras, or if you flip it over, you're scratching the cover screen. And the inner screen is basically plastic. So if you fold a screen, even on a tiny crumb of food, this thing is gonna self-destruct. And if I've left it on my bed open, and if I started my cardio session in my bed and I accidentally sat on it, it would not survive. 25-watt charging is kind of embarrassing. Google Maps is kind of pointless. Like, how is this any more useful than this? If anything, I'm getting more information on the smaller screen. Scrolling YouTube, I'm getting no advantage, and then I went to the gym and I realized that opening the bigger screen is completely pointless if I'm just listening to music. Which made me realize something. If I'm going outside, I simply do not need a tablet. It doesn't make my life any easier. And say if I open it on a bus or something, it simply makes my media consumption easier, because now I have twice as many news articles. Now think about the 5 key pillars of a phone. First, the build quality. Yes, it's premium, but it's also more fragile. Second, the display. Yes, it's good, but it's lacking the anti-reflective screen cover that the S25 Ultra has, so the visibility is worse, and of course, it's more fragile. Third, the camera. Although this phone costs way more than an Ultra, even the Z Fold 7 is slightly worse than an Ultra. Fourth, the performance. Yes, these have the fastest processors, but because of the fold-in design, they're naturally gonna overheat more. And fifth, the battery. Even the Z Fold 7 is 4400 milliamps. That is much worse than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So think about it, if you buy a Fold, you basically sacrifice everything that makes a phone good in exchange for a bigger screen, which in my opinion does not make your life any easier. Of course, sometimes it's good to have a bigger screen, but you basically just have a worse phone. And for my biggest problem, it's the unlocking. There is no in-screen fingerprint scanner, and the scanner on the side absolutely sucks rat's balls. It is so unreliable, and if I dare just to sweat one drop, this thing just gives up. And the face unlock is even worse. If it's slightly dark and you've just done your bed cardio, good luck unlocking it, it's just not gonna work. And if you open the phone, the camera on the inside is even worse. The quality is a lot worse than the other cameras, so the unlocking still sucks. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend getting an older Fold, but you can get the new one, which would fix the bulkiness, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this video. And even the new phone still uses the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which sucks. But anyway, I'm returning this phone and I'm going back to my normal phone because it doesn't make me feel like I need the extra screen, and I'm not making any compromises. I think sometimes having less is actually better.